Dan Graziano wakes up early with us and joins the program. Dan, fantastic to see you this morning. What more can you tell us about New York's draft plan just outside of 24 hours away?
Gary, there's a lot going on there. The Giants are in an interesting spot. They could stay put at 3 and draft Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, whichever one Cleveland doesn't draft, and be very happy with that. But they know they need to address the quarterback position at some point in this draft. They need to get that right for the long term. They have the second pick in the second round, so they'd be a strong candidate to trade back into the first to try and get their quarterback if that's the kind of thing that starts to happen on Thursday night. We have been told, and there's a perception around the league right now, that Brian Daboll's pick among the quarterbacks might be Mississippi's Jackson Dart. And if that's the case, 3, probably a little too early to take him. But you mentioned they're getting calls. If somebody wants to come up and trade into that 3 spot, is it worth the Giants, is it worth their time to move back, get the quarterback that they want a little bit later, pass on an Abdul Carter who could be a high-impact player, or are they comfortable risking waiting maybe a little too long if Dart is their guy and maybe somebody else ahead of them takes him away?
Interesting, and we're going to all see it come to a head tomorrow from Green Bay. Elsewhere, the Steelers don't have an answer from Aaron Rodgers. And, Graz, I know you're sick of answering the question. So, too, probably is everybody else. When they get an answer from Aaron Rodgers, if they get an answer from him, Pittsburgh currently has the 21st pick. What is the latest you're hearing about their draft plans?
Quarterback is definitely a possibility for Pittsburgh in the first round at pick 21. Their GM, Omar Khan, said yesterday they always go to camp with 4 quarterbacks. Right now they have 2. So even if they draft somebody, Aaron Rodgers could still come and sign with them. They're not going to let his process dictate what they do in the draft. Shedeur Sanders has been to Pittsburgh. He's met with the coaching staff. He's made what I've been told is a strong impression on Mike Tomlin and his coaching staff. It could absolutely be the pick for Pittsburgh if he's still there at 21. Wow. They have other needs. They need defensive tackle. They need running back. So it's hard to say what they do. But remember, Pittsburgh does not have a second-round pick. They traded it for DK Metcalf. They would love to trade back from 21 and add a day 2 pick. But if they can't do that, and they don't take quarterback in first round, that means they have to wait till round 3, and at that point, the guys they like may be long gone. So Pittsburgh has another team with a dilemma, knows it needs to get quarterback fixed for the long term, doesn't know if that's necessarily the right way to use its first-round pick.
I love the song and dance, and tomorrow as we approach the first round, we're going to have teams that are throwing up smoke screens. It's all amazing theater to watch. Yes. Dan Graziano maintains on the pulse of it all. Dan, much appreciated.
That chime, the draft is looming. We got it down to hours now. Let's see what we got. The Titans sound pretty firm on taking Cam Ward at number 1, but ESPN's Peter Schrager reports that the Browns are sit at 2 and the Giants, who are at 3, both saying they're taking trade calls on those spots and may be listening. To date, there have been no trades of first-round picks, which is the latest in draft season teams have gone without a trade involving a first-rounder since the common draft era began in.
To be quite honest with you, I don't know that I meant that specifically for him or the circumstance. I'm just saying in general, when you report to training camp, man, it's a line of demarcation for development of a group individually and collectively.
We go to camp with 4 quarterbacks. Right now we have 2 on the roster, and, all options are on the table, and how we acquire those last 2, I assure you we'll have 4 when we get to Latrobe.
So much to discuss. Our Steelers reporter Brooke Pryor is here. Mike Tannenbaum and McCourty, the T brothers, Jason McCourty, here to talk about everything Pittsburgh Steelers. And Brooke, I want to start with you for a moment. What can you tell us about where things stand with the team trying to sign Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Matt, let me tell you, the people that are sitting in that building behind me, they are not panicking about their quarterback situation or a lack of decision from Aaron Rodgers, because based on the conversations I've had with people sitting in that building, they tell me that there's nothing that surprised them about what Aaron Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show about his indecision about the future. In fact, when Rodgers said, those who need to know, count the Steelers among those folks that know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. They are letting him take his time and decide on his timeline. Of course, Aaron Rodgers was here. He visited the Steelers' Southside facility, and Mike Tomlin was asked if it's typical for a free agent visitor to come in, rent his own sedan, drive around the side of the building, and Mike Tomlin said, I don't know that I'm looking for typical.
It's true, and you're not going to get it with Aaron Rodgers, so everyone's on the same page there. And we bring this up because, again, Tomlin of the Steelers spoke today. The draft is just a couple of days away. They picked 21st. We'll get to all that in a minute. But I want to have you speak GM and speak Aaron Rodgers. What did you hear from him last week when he spoke on Pat McAfee?
Yeah, he's out in my mind, and here's why. We go back a couple of years ago when he went from the Packers to the Jets. He was there for the first day of the offseason program. He was clearly all in. When you're looking for a battlefield commander to withstand the rigors of a 17-game regular season, as Coach Tomlin would say himself, we want volunteers, not hostages. The offseason program's begun, and we didn't spend $30 million a year and give up a second-round pick, guys, to have Mason Rudolph be our quarterback. So I'm glad we got the information if we're Pittsburgh before Thursday night. And I've been in this situation before. You have to have the mindset, if we're the Steelers, we're going to get a quarterback Thursday night.
Right, so you talked about right now it is Mason Rudolph, and let's just assume Aaron Rodgers is out. If the Steelers just don't make any quarterback moves whatsoever, I mean, they have because they've got 2 in the roster, but let's just say they stay where they are.
Yeah.
What's their outlook for 2025 if they bring in a DK Metcalf and Rudolph's their guy?
I would define it as insanity because it would be the Steelers doing the same thing that we've seen year after year after year and expecting different results. Playoff exit in the first time they get there. So you look at this Pittsburgh Steelers team, we heard Omar Khan say, hey, we're going to get 2 more quarterbacks on the roster. You have to hope that one of those quarterbacks is Aaron Rodgers and the other one is a draft pick coming out of this one, whether that's Jackson Dart, whether Shedeur Sanders falls, whether that's a Jalen Milroe, a guy that you can develop. That, to me, is the only way you look at this Steelers team and you have a positive outlook on 2025.
When we saw those quarterback dominoes fall in free agency, we're sitting, well, what are the Steelers going to do? And they did nothing.
Nothing.
And they're past the point of that now.
But that's why Thursday night's the backstop to all those things. You can backstop all those decisions by making sure you get one Thursday night.
Great segue, because one of the players that may be an option in Pittsburgh, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. Tomlin spoke about Shedeur this morning.
The things that stood out were evident in this video. There's a toughness there that doesn't get talked about enough. There's a competitive spirit there that doesn't get talked about enough. I know he's very talented and has made a lot of plays for his university and his team. But the intangible qualities displayed on tape were impressive to me.
Okay, Brooke, I said it. Steelers' 21st pick. What more did they say about Sanders and their quarterback draft strategy?
Matt, let me borrow a phrase from our friend Aaron Rodgers that the Steelers are open to anything and attached to nothing as far as drafting a quarterback goes in the next couple days, because as it is my understanding, this is a team that there are some quarterbacks that they really like that they could take in the first round, but they're not going to reach for a quarterback. They went through this in 2022 with Kenny Pickett and things didn't work out. And they did learn from that experience that you can do all your homework on a guy and you can feel really comfortable with him, but sometimes it's not the right fit. And so in doing that, they have learned and grown from that experience. And I asked Mike Tomlin relative to the homework that they did in 2022 or any other year they were considering a quarterback, had they done that volume of work on this class? And he said, I don't know that I'm looking at it comparatively, but we feel like we have been thorough in our evaluation with these quarterbacks. And by the way, if they don't draft a guy in the first round, they have a guy in the building in Mason Rudolph, who they have drafted in the last couple years. I guess it's been 6-7 years now, but they feel really good about him. And the guys in the locker room rally around Mason Rudolph, and they will play for him.
And Brooke, thank you. And we talk about this all the time, Mike Tannenbaum, how NFL people will talk themselves to making a quarterback into a first round, when in reality is probably a second, third, or fourth. But if the class is weak, they're going to say, oh, this guy's a first rounder because it's best of a weak class. Not saying that's the case for this class, just saying that happens all the time in the draft. But then Shedeur Sanders, he's